Hi friends, welcome to a new weekly vlog. I'm really sad I didn't record over the weekend. It's currently Sunday night. I had a really productive weekend. If you're following my mental health journey, I am like a week and a half on Zoloft, and my doctor told me it would take like 8 weeks to feel anything, but I have been so locked in. I don't know if it's placebo because I feel like I'm getting my life together by being on medication. All day Saturday I deep cleaned. All day today I like grocery shopped, read my book, did my chores. So my apartment right now is very clean. And also because I was so locked in, I finished my book that I was reading, which I never introed to the vlog. So here's like a review before we dive into what I'm currently reading. So I started and finished Extasia by Claire Legrand. Claire Legrand is one of my favorite writers ever. She's really well known for Sawkill Girls, which I haven't read and I really need to get to. She wrote the Furyborn trilogy, which is one of my favorite series ever. I fortunately got to meet her after COVID, and I told her like, this is one of the greatest series of all time, like congratulations on how good it is. And she saw all the tabs in my book and she took a picture of it and she was really excited. I was like, me, Claire Legrand. Anyway, I really wanted to read spooky books this time of year, and this is a witchy book. I knew very little about it. I just knew I loved her as a writer, and this turned out to be the perfect thing to read while processing the election results. So the premise of this book is that it is post-apocalyptic, like the world has ended, and this girl, the main character named Amity, is from a village where they are hyper religious, and they're like, we are the chosen people by God who survived after the plague or whatever hit. And the whole reason the world ended, they teach, is because of women and how vile and selfish they are. And so the women in this village train to become saints, and then the whole town basically beats up on them, and like women are just so hated in this village, and this is all the women in this town know, and they blame themselves. But all these killings start happening in the town, like men dying of very devilish ways, like non-natural ways. And so the main character is like, I have to find the devil to make a deal with him to stop killing people. So she gets on this mission, meets witches while doing that. And when I tell you, if the song Who's Afraid of Little Old Me could be summed up in a book, it would be this. This main character was so incredible to read about. And the background of it being like this religious, women must be silent and obedient because of God, just struck so close to home. And it takes the character a long time to realize that what she's being told is not true. And I think a lot of people might get frustrated with her taking like 400 pages. This is a 500-page book. People might get frustrated with her taking a long time to come to grips with what's happened to her, but I thought it was realistic for her to not want to get rid of that shield that she has, because then she has to confront that her whole life is a lie. So I really enjoyed the tone of this. The witches that she meets are all about like, we're gonna hurt men because men hurt us. So if you were man-hating, you're going to love this book. The two things I will say, I really liked this book. I gave it 4 stars. Again, it was the perfect thing for me to read right now. I love all the empowerment and the sisterhood in this. Also, there's a sapphic relationship which was written so prettily, and the whole book itself, I just love Claire Legrand's writing style. It was so beautiful. Some people might call this purple prose, but it is, as a Shatter Me stan, it is right up my alley. This does not have a lot of reviews, but if you are into like sapphic witchy books, especially that are like adjacent to like dystopia and like religious trauma themes, you would eat this up. The only reason I didn't give it 5 stars is because I feel like the plot got a bit muddled, mainly because the way that she has to summon the devil is by collecting like 5 items that should be pretty easy. It's like a belt, a knife, and it takes her the whole fucking book to try and find them. I'm like, girl, go to your dad's closet. So I don't know why it took so long, and that wasn't really explained. And also there's a plot twist at the end that I think made the world interesting, but I think the book was trying to do too much all at once. I really can't talk about that because it'll be spoilers, but if you've read it, you know what I mean. 4 stars. Very solid book. If you want to read a book about man-hating feminists and wanting to burn the world down and feminine rage, this is your go-to. So loved that. Definitely appreciate Claire Legrand for all she does for the world. So I'm gonna give myself until around Thanksgiving to continue reading like spooky fall vibe books. So I actually just picked up this book from the library. It was a hold that I've had for a couple weeks because this book just came out out and my library was processing it, and it finally came in. So I'm gonna read another witchy book. This one is A Witch's Guide to Burning by Aminder Dalawal. This is an author I've read before. She has another book called Woman World that I love. It's so funny. It's a graphic novel that's about all the men in the world die off, and so what it would be like for just women to run everything, and it is so funny and so good. So when I saw she was writing another graphic novel, I immediately was like, I'll take that. And I was not expecting this to be like a full a full novel but with pictures. So this is pretty wordy. It's like a story, but it uses like speech bubbles, and then the text itself, if someone like shouts, the text bubbles get bigger if someone's being loud. Anytime it says the word burned, the letters are on fire. Like, it uses the actual typescript to tell the story like that. So I don't know, I'm liking it so far. There's really not a plot. It does read as like a guidebook because every time it uses like a witch's recipe, it'll do a recipe page for it. It almost feels like Animal Crossing. I don't know how to describe that. It's pretty dark because the first page is the main character like waking up after being burned at the stake. But there's a witch that comes and saves her. The witch has like a toad as a sidekick, and the toad talks and has its own little hat. I'm not sure what the plot's gonna be because I'm only, gosh, does this even have page numbers? It doesn't have page numbers. I'm only 8 chapters in, so I have a lot more left. We'll see how far I can get in this before I get sleepy because it's already 10 o'clock. Let's see how this week goes. Hello again. It's actually Tuesday today. I didn't record at all yesterday. I did have a very productive afternoon. I took a walk for like half an hour, went to the little free library, came home, and finished my graphic novel. So this took me much longer to read than expected because it's basically like a book. Obviously there's not as many words in this as there would be a typical novel, but this was very like story heavy and dialogue heavy. So this took me several hours to read, and I was not expecting that. But this book follows a main character named Singe, and this other witch is like, I'm gonna heal you, I'm gonna take you on a journey with me as your body recuperates, and once you get your memories back of what your life was like before you got burned, then you'll be safe to go. But she basically just like mothers her until she's okay again. But it's just this trio of like this girl who doesn't really remember where she's from, she doesn't have her powers back yet, and then this like very homely, motherly witch and her toad friend. And then as they go along together, they're just like on this journey to turn the toad back into a human and fight all these demons while they're on their way. So they just encounter a bunch of things. You can really tell how this is a metaphor for mental health because a lot of the recipes that they share, especially that Singe receives, are like body healing kinds of things. Like one of them was like a self-love potion where you see yourself in a different light, and some of the monsters they have to overcome are like disgust and doubt, so she has to like give herself affirmations that she can get through those things. So I can definitely see how this is meant to be like a fantasy book but also have some applicable sense. I thought it was fun. The tone of it is definitely lighthearted more than anything else, even though it was different than I was expecting, like wordiness wise, and the story. I loved getting to know the characters. I think there were a lot of funny nods. Just the way the story is told with like story but then dialogue but then also having pictures. I don't know, I really liked it. I wasn't a huge fan of the ending. There were a lot of pieces that came together really fast at the end that I didn't 100% grasp, so I'm gonna settle on a 4 stars for this. I just really love this author. She has a 3rd book that I had never heard of, so I need to check that one out as well. It's called the Cyclopedia Exotica. But if you haven't heard of this author before, I 100% recommend Woman World that she wrote as well. And this was fun. If anything, it's just a nice like witchy autumn-y book, so support this author if that sounds interesting to you. And then I took a big leap last night when I finished that. I wanted to start a new book before bed, and I wanted to start either The Silent Patient or this. And I knew if I didn't read this one, I would never reach for it. So I took the leap. I started Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I am so reticent to reach for classics nowadays because I feel like my attention span has been rightfully fucked over by social media. I was very nervous that this would just be so boring and long-winded. It is like a 450-page classic. I feel like I have heard inklings of what this is about and I don't really remember, but I'm at the point where I don't want to Google it because I kind of don't want to know anything about it, so I have no clue what to expect. All that being said, I read 80 pages of this in one sitting last night for like 2 hours, and it was so gripping. So I don't know where the story is gonna go, but I'm gonna give you kind of the lowdown of how I feel right now. I thought this book was from like the 19th century, but it was pretty recently published in the 30s. So the writing style is very accessible. I think it's easy to follow and understand, especially once it gets into the more dialogue scenes. But then once you get into the actual storyline, I was hooked. And I think that also is because the main character in this book, she's unnamed as of right now, which I kind of like. The main character is so relatable. The premise of it so far is that the main character, again, don't know what her name is 21 years old. She is just like an assistant to a woman who's this rich lady, but they're on vacation in Monte Carlo. And she is just such a wallflower and only does this job because it pays. But while they're in Monte Carlo, this woman looks to another table and sees this man who's famous because he owns this estate called Manderley on the coast of England outside of Exeter, whose wife Rebecca died, and so he's still recovering from that. As you can imagine, the main character and this man, who's like 41, so who could be her dad, they strike up conversation. I don't know where this book is gonna go, so I don't want to pretend like this is a romance or the story of these two characters, but the thing that has stricken me so much about this so far is the main character, like I said, like her tone of voice of just feeling like she is so young and naive. This book has a narration style that I love, which is the book is told in past tense, first person, but the narrator is explaining it to you like with the wisdom that she currently has. So it'll be like, this happened and looking back on that, I just feel so regretful. So I love the whole tone of knowing what I know now. Here is what this story is, and it does that. Another thing I love about this is the main character both regards that period of her life with a lot of love and wants to reminisce about being young again and being in that house and feeling like she's so young, but then there's also a lot of loss associated with it. One thing that I have been eating up and is one of my favorite themes in books is feeling like you want to hold on so tightly to the past. That is something that strikes very close to home as someone who's had a really tough time adjusting to growing up and living alone and like being responsible and coming from a very sheltered childhood. A lot of this is about wanting to trap her happy moments in glass and just preserve it because everything she knows now has polluted her happy moments. Again, I feel like this is a very premature thing to say that the whole book is going to be about that, but so far I've marked a couple of quotes in here that I really resonated with. So this has been very long-winded, but I just want to say I'm really enjoying this so far. I've posted about it and a couple of my friends have been like, oh my god, I love that book. So it comes very highly recommended. I really want to Google it and know like, what am I getting myself into? Is this going to be a mystery about what happened to the wife? Is it going to be romance? Is it like a haunted house kind of thing? I don't know why I thought this book has fall vibes, so I wonder if I'm just totally off or if there's something that I've forgotten in the plot of this that I knew at one point. I'm going to continue reading, and I have a feeling I'm going to sail through this even though I thought it was going to take a couple weeks for me to be able to read a classic. So loving Rebecca so far. Truthfully, I can't stop reading this book. I'm on page 120. I can't even get up to go close my window because there are people loudly doing yard work outside, but I can't be bothered. I just want to do a dramatic reading of this paragraph because at this point it's like this book has reached into my brain and knows me too well. So please endure me reading out loud for 30 seconds. I wanted to go on sitting there, not talking, not listening to the others, keeping the moment precious for all time because we were peaceful, all of us. We were content and drowsy, even as the bee who droned above our heads. In a little while, it would be different. There would come tomorrow, and the next day, and another year, and we would be changed perhaps, never quite sitting like this again. Some of us would go away, or suffer, or die. The future stretched away in front of us, unknown, unseen, not perhaps what we wanted, not what we planned. This moment was safe, though. This could not be touched. What the fuck? And just to close that out, at the end of the paragraph, she says, but for them this was just after lunch, 3:15 on a haphazard afternoon. Like any hour, like any day. They did not want to hold it close, imprisoned and secure as I did. They were not afraid. Damn, I have chills. I have chills! Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. If this doesn't get 5 stars, I will be shocked. I have been sitting on my couch from 6 to 10 p.m. just reading this. I haven't been locked into a book this way in a while. I have the dark academia fall mansion playlist on. I got to page 350. I got like 100 left. I have been glued onto this book because I love this main character. I also found out this is the book that Taylor based Tolerate It off of, which as I've been reading this, there's been a couple of Taylor songs that come to mind, like Mirror Ball and also Fortnite, because the whole plot of it is she is this man's second wife and she feels so inferior to his first wife that everyone was obsessed with. And I will just say, I was kind of expecting this to be like a little bit of a mystery because that's what I've heard about it, that's what it's categorized as, but the plot twist that just hit has me in shambles. I literally was on FaceTime with Bonnie and I went, oh my god. So this book took a complete left turn from what I thought it was gonna do. Honestly, I'm a little bit nervous that it's not gonna go in the direction that I was hoping for, but I don't know, we'll see. It's definitely kept me on my toes. It's been a 5-star book so far. It's just been a long time since I've been so invested in a book like this, where I will just read for hours and hours and I'm like, I want to keep reading this. It's like I never get tired of it, which is so strange because it's very like classical writing style where it's not just like quick and punchy and smutty, but I love this. I'm very curious the direction this will end up going based on the plot twist. So I will probably finish this tomorrow night. Daphne du Maurier said, we're going fishing. We got her. Side note, I did also go to the library tonight and I just picked up some random books that were on the new books shelf. I got Bull Moon Rising, which is the new Ruby Dixon book that's about this girl has to like marry a Taurus, like a Minotaur, because she wants to train to be an archaeologist or something, but men only can do that, so she has to have him train her. I don't know. It's monster smut, okay? Also, they had Voyage of the Damned, which is like people on a ship and people start dying. We'll see if that's good. And also, they just bought Sweet Bean Paste, which is a Japanese translated book about this guy who wants to be a writer, but he's stuck working at like a food vendor stand. But he befriends a little old lady and their friendship is very sweet and wholesome. So we'll see if and when I get around to these. I'm now gonna go lay in bed and attempt to put this down for the night. But I have read all of this in like one day. Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, you are that girl. Okay, hi. I doubt you can see me. It's currently 12:30 in the morning. It's Sunday night. I have had the dictionary definition of a rot day. I only left bed to get snacks. I don't think I had like an actual meal for any meal other than breakfast. And I've just been watching like true crime videos on YouTube all day. And I know mental health is not linear and I shouldn't be very critical on myself, but this was like a textbook definition as well of when I say I want to relax on the weekends. This is what I want to do. I want to do absolutely nothing. But I also just feel gross. I feel like my weekends nowadays go one of two ways. I either know that I want to film, so I get my life together and I clean so that my apartment looks presentable, and then I read all weekend because I want to film, and if I do nothing like lay in bed and watch YouTube all day, then that doesn't make for fun, entertaining filming content. This was a weekend where I didn't touch my camera and therefore I didn't touch any of my responsibilities or self-care or really anything, and I've just been kind of laying in bed feeling miserable for myself, and I don't know what help it'll do me to talk about it, but I just feel blah. I think that's all. I thought this would sound very profound, but I kind of feel even more pathetic. Whatever. Hi! I'm feeling better since yesterday. I did that whole rant last night. I just felt really icky. I'm feeling a little bit better today. What's been hard is that at the beginning of this vlog, when I first started my medicine, I was on a kick. I was like, my life is different. I feel so much better. And I don't really feel that way anymore. I feel back to my normal self. I haven't been taking my 10-minute walks that my doctor recommended. I've been missing taking my medicine because it's not part of my routine yet, so I keep forgetting to take it, which this is a reminder I need to take it after this. So I'm giving myself some lenience. I still have a lot to go before I feel like a normally functioning human. But this week is the week of Thanksgiving, so there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I have 2 days off at the end of this week. I had a fun time in DC. It was my first time going. My sister and I are not close, but we hung out without my parents around for the first time. It went fine, so that was really fun to see that side of her and that city just in general. I was a Hamilton girl through and through, so I was being very annoying. The one thing I wanted to talk about now is I realized I never came back with my full review of Rebecca, which at this point I have now finished like over a week ago. If it wasn't painfully clear, 5 stars. I should have trusted the girls, and I did. I mean, this has been on my TBR for a reason. I've heard it's great. I guess I just didn't realize how popular it is, but rightfully so. And I am so interested in seeing the movie now that I've read this. Basically, yes, it's just about this main character feeling like she's living in the shadow of Rebecca and dealing with this marriage where this man is twice her age and you're so much older and wiser but she just deals a lot with insecurity and fear of other people, and God, this book is like a century old and I just related to her so hard. I'm not a mystery person, but I also just loved the way that this action unfolded. I really want to get my mom to read this. I think she would be absolutely ballistic over it because she does not like character-driven books. She only wants a murder mystery, but I think that this is so good. I described this in my Goodreads review that this book is for girls who get attached to hotel rooms, and when you have to leave and you do the whole, you know, turn around and look over your shoulder before you leave, and you kind of mourn the fact that this place was your home for even like 24 hours. Getting really attached to places and people and memories. I already said that this book's just struck really close to home with some of its messages, but this is a book where I finished it and immediately flipped back to chapter 1 and started reading again, because this is also a story format where the first couple chapters take place in current time and then you go back and it recounts what happened to get to that point, so like everything comes full circle. I 100% anticipate that I will reread this in years to come. Already, as soon as I finished it, I called up the besties and I was like, hey, when are you guys reading Rebecca? Because I cannot emphasize it enough. Not just if you're a Taylor Swift fan, you would like this, but I feel like the overlap between this main character and how a lot of readers feel like they're a passenger seat in their own life. I get it. I get it. I get it. Full 5 stars, absolutely obsessed with this. I read you my favorite quote earlier, and I just know when I reread this in future years, I'm gonna find more that I love about it. So this was absolutely a good fall time read, even a winter time read. I think I know why I felt in my head that it was a fall time read. This is a gothic novel. It's like part of that genre. Don't quiz me on what that means, but I think because of that, it like fits in nicely. It's got a very moody aesthetic, especially being around like this old mansion. So we're nearing the end of this vlog. I'm not going to introduce anything too crazy, but I do want to mention the things that I'm currently reading, and maybe I'll leave you off on that for next time. So November is Native American Heritage Month, so my current buddy read I have going with my best friend Bonnie is this book that I found at like an old library bookstore. It's from the 90s, but it's called Growing Up Native American. This is a essay and short story compilation put together by Patricia Riley. So this has a bunch of Native American authors. A lot of it so far has been fiction, but there is some nonfiction. The list is big of how many people are in here, but this does have some big names like Leslie Marmon Silko, who wrote Ceremony. Louise Erdrich is in this, and a couple others, but those are the two main ones that I knew. So this just talks about what it's like being a Native American, obviously focusing on adolescence, either on the reservation, or a lot of these are like historical books, so talking about like the 1800s when there was a lot of colonization happening and the Trail of Tears, different time periods and different feelings and reactions to growing up being Native American. Being an anthology, some of these I've liked more than others, writing style wise, but it's an important thing to read and I am learning a lot. So I am 100 pages into that. So like a third of the way. And then, where's my other book? I think it's in my backpack, please hold. And then I did it, I made the leap. I haven't recorded in like a week, but you haven't missed much because I have not been reading. However, last night, I finally bit the bullet and just got 70 pages into Fart Breaker by Victoria Aveyard. I'm gonna try not to make this be like the previous volumes in this series where it's taken me 2 weeks to read them all. If I could read 70 pages in one sitting, I think that's a good sign, especially because this is the last book in the series. There's already been some romance, so the time has paid off, and now all of the characters are in different places trying to get back to each other. There's been a cliffhanger of whether or not some characters are captured or if they're okay, so waiting to hear back if they're all right. Yeah, it's good so far. So my next vlog will be all about this, maybe a little bit of this. I do have a couple days off for Thanksgiving, so hoping to get some reading done, but would not be surprised if I spent it on YouTube instead. Okay, that being said, that's really all. I tried to make this like a weekly vlog where I took you along with me, but I just feel like I've been in such a rush lately. I forget to bring y'all, so I apologize. That's everything that I have. Long story short of this video is Read Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. And until next time, thank you all for joining me. Toodles.